Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both for being here. And Mr. Bloom, our apologies for not directing any questions to you. I know you're all upset and frustrated by that. But like the others, I'm going to direct my questions to Ms. McCarthy. I want to build on some previous comments and questions, Madam Administrator, about the Small Business Regulatory Flexibility Act.
Yes.
I'm chair of small business. This has been a real concern of a lot of members, including Democrats. And I heard your response to Senator Rounds a few minutes ago that you take it very seriously. In the case of WOTUS, which is a big deal by anyone's estimation, the EPA said it has no significant impact on small business. Do you really stand by that, and do you really think that backs up your statement that you take this mandate to mitigate impacts on small business seriously?
Well, sir, when we were looking at the Clean Water Rule, we consulted with OMB, and the decision was that we were not required to formally do a panel, a SABRIFA panel, but we did commit to having significant conversations.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but that means that you determined the WOTUS rule had no major impact on small business.
Because it was a jurisdictional rule instead of an
stand by that?
implementation rule. And certainly, I stand by the fact that we did the outreach to small business the way we should.
And you think reaching that conclusion is evidence of your taking the small business impact issue seriously?
I think the evidence of our taking it seriously was we went above and beyond the requirements under the law to reach out to small businesses and get their input.
Just for the record, I completely disagree. I don't think you met your requirements.
Okay,
More recently, EPA submitted its proposed rule regulating methane emissions for new oil and natural gas infrastructure to the White House. You submitted that to the White House for review before the small entity representatives on the panel submitted any comments to the EPA. Do you think that evidences you're taking this small business impact issue seriously?
I'm sorry, Senator, I don't know the exact timing on that, but often there are overlaps. But as you know, we make adjustments through the interagency process so that those efforts are completed before any proposal is out for public comment.
Well, I do know the timing, and I'm telling you, you submitted it to the White House for review before getting any small business input. Now, I know you can always come back and change things, but normally, you know, once you have a draft, once you're giving it to the White House, that's basically it. Once again, to me, this is a red flag that y'all aren't taking the small business impact issue the least bit seriously. Well, let me move on to a second issue, which is Flint, and we've talked about that.
Yes.
I think it's very clear to all of us that there were multiple failures of government at multiple levels with regard to this issue. And it's now well established that that unfortunately includes EPA, that EPA knew of the crisis well before national media attention, but seemed to fail to act on the issue and notify Flint residents. Because of this, Senators Inhofe, Corner, and I wrote to you with some specific questions on February 4th. It's now 2.5 months later. We have no response. When are we going to see a detailed written response?
I apologize for interrupting. You are going to get it momentarily. I'm sorry. It's within the next day or two.
Okay. So we'll look for that within the next 2 days. Again, we sent this February 4th.
You're right, sir.
Detailed questions, and we look forward to a substantive, specific, detailed response.
We'll do the best we can.
Ozone regulation.
Yes.
You recently claimed at a conference that you, quote, can't find one single bit of evidence that the EPA has destroyed an industry or significantly impacted jobs other than in a positive way, close quote. Do you stand by that statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I just want to point out, related to ozone regulation, I can tell you from Louisiana, there were 4 major chemical manufacturing projects under active consideration for Baton Rouge. that was public, specific projects. After EPA first proposed lowering the ozone standard in December 2014, those were canceled. Since that's been finalized, that cancellation is definitive. Just those projects, one metro area that happens to be in my state, total 2,000 direct and indirect jobs. New payroll would have been over $86 million. Is that a negative impact?
Well, so the jobs that you're talking about are essential for everybody to continue to grow. So I'm happy to look at that issue, but very often companies make decisions on the basis of their larger economic benefits and costs. And very often they will point to an EPA rule to justify that decision when there are many other issues going on that actually account for that decision more directly.
Well, I can tell you in the case of Greater Baton Rouge, ozone is a huge issue because it pushes the whole area into noncompliance. It's absolutely categorically canceling projects, including the 4 I mentioned, and that's over 2,000 jobs. So, you know, when you make the statement that you see no evidence anywhere that anything EPA has done has hurt jobs, I think that's a very crystal clear example to the contrary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.